Alright, so we're going to go ahead and continue our discussion on solving equations. Here we're going to look at different types of equations. In the previous video we saw some linear equations. Here we have some different ones. So let's start off with number one. We have the square root of 6 minus x equals 6. What I want to do is isolate the variable x. So what I first need to do is get rid of the square root. So the way I can get rid of a square root is by squaring both sides. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. So the square root and a square will go ahead and cancel each other out since they are inverse operations. So by doing that, we would be left with just 6 minus x is equal to, now if we square this, 6 squared just becomes 36. And now what I can go ahead and do is move this 6 over. So let me go ahead and do that. Now this is a positive 6. So when I move it over, it becomes a minus 6. So now I'm left with, on the left side, all that's left is just a negative x. And on the right side, we just have 36 minus 6. Well, that's just 30. Now here we have negative x is equal to 30, but we don't want negative x, we want positive x. So what we can do is go ahead and think about dividing by a negative 1. So if I divide by negative 1, then I have to divide both sides by negative 1. Well, a negative divided by a negative here is going to be positive, and x divided by 1, really anything divided by 1 is just simply that value. So like 5 divided by 1 is just 5. So x divided by 1 is simply just x. And so now we just have 30 divided by a negative 1, that's simply just negative 30, and there is our answer. So we can say that x is equal to negative 30. Moving on to the second problem for this tutorial, we have this one here. So we have x plus 1 divided by x is equal to 15. So what we want to do is maybe get rid of this x in the denominator. Well, we need to think, well, what are we doing here? Well, we're dividing by x, so how do we undo division? Well, we can simply just multiply both sides by x, and that should undo the division. And notice here that these x's, this x here is going to reduce with that x there. And all that we're left with would be x plus 1 on the left side, and here we have 15x. Now from here we can go ahead and solve the equation by getting our x's on one side. So again, I'm just going to get the x on the left side, so I'm going to get this guy right here. I'm going to go ahead and move him over. When I move him over, it was positive on the left, so when I chuck him to the other side, it's going to be negative. Now on the left side, all that is left is just a positive 1. On the right side, we have 15x take away an x, so we're left with 14x. And now the question is, well, how do I undo this multiplication by 14? Well, we can simply just divide by 14. And we have to do this to the other side as well. So we are now left with our answer here that 1 over 14 is equal to x.